So I used ChatGPT to pick a bathtub.
I'm shocked. But I feel like there's a big story there.
Well, let's just say I would never do it again.
Today, Danielle is diving into her whole bathroom renovation. All of the details, what I think is great, some of the old bad stuff, aka pink Grout, everything.
Yeah, it was, I guess, 3.5 years in the making. So I felt the pressure to get it right. I wanted to get it right. And I think I did. I hope I did. It's pretty close to perfect in my opinion.
This is probably the most personal episode we have ever done.
Yes. I'm ready to share all my mistakes. So get ready, buckle up. This is Design Defined.
All right, my friend, I feel like I've seen so many photos of your home, but I actually haven't been to visit yet. And obviously neither have our viewers. So tell me about your beautiful home in New Jersey. Paint a picture about this bathroom. What was it like before you got started on the renovation?
Well, I think the home itself is great. It has lovely character. It's probably one of the only houses on the block that hasn't been flipped and has been available in the past couple of years. So that comes with like good and bad, right? So you get all that charm. The stained glass is still there with a beautiful staircase. I would say the bathrooms are cataclysmically bad.
What was the color? What was the story? What was happening in there?
Gosh, what wasn't happening in there? So let's see. Let's start with like the finishes because they obviously weren't to my taste. They kind of looked like late 90s, early 2000s, like home center special, but like somehow worse, like pastel tile. I think we talked about the pink grout. The vanity was wood and it was peeling. There was some crown, I guess, or what was supposed to be crown, like small molding at the top of the ceiling that was literally tacked on with nails and like pulling out of the wall.
The pink grout was like literally not only in your bath, but like across flooring as well, or?
Yeah, it was in the flooring. I'm sure that the people who lived there before us like kept it better. I think we kind of ran it into the ground. Like the tub was peeling too, but it definitely wasn't when we had moved in. But yeah, the pink grout on the floors and the floor tiles were like a weird shade of light pink / white. Just wasn't working for us, you know, aesthetically, but I think functionally too. Like I said, things were peeling. And the ceiling tiles, they're like what you would find in an office. So like it had its challenges. Plus storage, I think, wasn't really optimal. The sink, the vanity didn't have any closed storage, which I think is always tough in a bathroom when you have a lot of products or like you're trying to max out storage. There was a linen closet, so we were going to keep that because that's where sheets and towels and all that stuff, hampers are. So that was like the one nice thing about the layout. And the layout wasn't bad because it is a small space. Like, let's not forget that. It's just that, like, you know, they had chosen a longer toilet, but it's sort of a smaller bathroom. Yeah, so like that could have been a better choice.
Okay, so we've heard about this space, this mythical before space that needed a healthy reno. I feel like obviously you spend all day long looking at visual input. Where did you exactly land on inspiration for this particular space? Because I feel like you could have gone 100 different directions.
Yeah, well, I think the big thing for me is that as an old house lover and like, again, acknowledging all the problems that can come with an old house, I wanted to do something that like paid homage to what was there, right? Not something that wouldn't be totally out of line with like a 20s or a 30s house, since it is kind of straddling those two decades. I follow a lot of designers whose work I love, and you know, they tend to work in a more historic style. I'm thinking of Lauren Karen, who is the principal of Studio La Log, and she's done a lot of projects. She renovated her own bathroom, similar era house. Maybe I can't remember exactly what year hers is, but that was sort of a
like a page out of her book. Yeah,
a watershed little bath for me for looking for inspiration. And then Melissa Oho Interiors, another fabulously talented designer and design firm. And I believe she's out of the Midwest somewhere. She was in Minneapolis, does a lot of historic homes. She's so talented. She did this super cute pink tile bath. Like, I wanted to lean into color a little bit. I don't love renovating for resale, but I'm not sure this is our forever home.
Right.
So I wanted something that would kind of straddle that line too, like be a little exciting, have a little bit of color, but not be totally off-putting to guests or people who maybe one day would buy the house or something like that. So that was really sort of the main reference point. But then the thing that I always think about with design too, and I'm big on this, I don't want to live in a museum. I love old objects. I love vintage, but I want to always mix in that like modernity and kind of bring it back to the century that we're in. So I always look at apartment therapy house tours too. Another shout out for Adrian.
Yeah, goes Adrian.
She always is finding like the greatest spaces. So there's a tour that we have, Erica Hart's tour. She had done this really beautiful bath with mosaic floor. And I think Melissa's done mosaic floors. Lauren's probably done mosaic floors too. So I kind of felt strongly about that because I feel like that's a real hallmark of the 20s.
Right.
Is those sort of tiled floors with the floral kind of very subtle abstract pattern. And her bathroom, going back to Erica, is just gorgeous. Wooden vanity, the lighter tile on the wall. I think she maybe did a wainscot, like tapped her tile off with like some green. And I love green. And I think the one thing I didn't mention before is we have a lot of greens and teals, warm woods and beiges in the house. And a lot of that was dictated by the stained glass. So I was kind of like, oh, I think I'm going to do green.
All right. Well, a little birdie told me, the little birdie being you, told me where you got some of your stuff for the bathroom. And I think for everyone who is tuning in, I think we might be shopping Wayfair totally wrong.
Yeah, I mean, quite the one-stop shop for renovations. Specifically, almost everything in the bathroom is from there. Of course, I had mixed some vintage and I have different linens and stuff like that. But they have so much. And I think what's great too is instead of running around to a million different showrooms,
it's all in one spot. Yeah. And I tend to think of Wayfair for like accent decor and, rugs and a great lamp. But I love that you got some of your tile there as well, correct?
Yeah, no. They have it all. And I think the tile is what really kicked things off. I had mentioned I wanted to go, with a color and like bring some of that in. So what kicked it all off, like moving from my inspiration to like reality, was I found this gorgeous, gorgeous tile made in Spain. They had this beautiful subway tile in kale colorway and a vanilla colorway. And I immediately knew that I wanted to do kind of a wainscoting type look and separate it with pencil trim. I had seen Melissa from Oho do that in that gorgeous pink bathroom. And I was like, let me take that idea. Let's change the shape of the tile a little bit, go a little more. I mean, she had square, which is traditional too, but I wanted to go with the subway sort of,
right?
Because it is just so on theme for the house. Yeah, so I wanted that silhouette. I'm not tired of it. And I think changing the color and then also the finish, because this finish is beautiful. It's like kind of like shimmery glazy. So yeah, it's that little touch of like everybody's obsession with Celige, but it's not Celige because I don't think Celige really would have worked in this house. It's not a super modern house.
But it bounces the light around. Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Started there and knew that we were going to do a tub and keep the layout basically the same. I love Kohler plumbing. Shout out to Kohler. So once the tile was sort of set, and I think I mentioned that's going to do the mosaic, they had this beautiful black mosaic with the white flowers. What I will say is we went about Kohler, and I think that was great because obviously it's such a trusted name in American design, but also if you stick with the same plumbing company, then the finishes can kind of go together, and that's
super cohesive.
And I knew because I had the cream on the walls, like there would be cream and white mixed throughout, which I was fine with. But what I wasn't fine with is like 10 different shades of white ceramic, because that can be distracting. And so Kohler tub, Kohler toilet, also Kohler fixtures too, like the actual hardware and faucets of it all. So
stunning.
The Studio McGee line, the Castia, love it. I did the vibrant bronze brushed brass. What's nice too is you can coordinate the shower bar for the shower curtain. Like they kind of have it all. They have knobs, they have things that match. So again, I'm not always for the matchy-matchy, but I do think I mixed kind of metals elsewhere. So I wanted to keep the brass as consistent as possible.
Well, what's funny is that you touched upon how your tile selection kind of like danced off the Celige trend. Yeah. But we were, obviously it's past our drop of our new next list, hot plug. Please go to site and read all about it. But one of the trends that we talked about for, 2026 and into next year is that iridescent, shine maxing, light dancing, light bouncing is really in right now. And I love that I'm seeing that in your bathroom. And I was going to ask you, I feel like there are also, I mean, you did a really good job of like towing the line between details that felt true to you, but also details that feel super trendy right now. So what else would you call out in your space as being trendy?
The vanity is very traditional, but it does have marble as its top, and it's so beautiful. This piece is, when people have come over and seen the bathroom, they're like, oh my God, like that's not custom. And I was like, no, it's Wayfair. And it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So that has that marble top. And I think the edges are cut in a way that feel kind of trendy and like a little bit more contemporary. Also has a little bit of fluted trim on the side, which you can really see from the photos. And then it's funny that you picked up on like the shine of the tile, because I did actually do something that we've been telling people is over, and I don't care. You're probably not going to like it because I feel like you have strong opinions, but
Me, never.
I did mix materials and I did bring in a couple hits of matte black.
That's okay. I feel like you did it a beautiful way.
Yeah, well, like, the whole journey with me, I think for me, it was sort of like I don't want too much gold. I didn't want too much garishness, a little bit like over the top. So to kind of round it and bring it back to earth a little bit, I chose a medicine cabinet that was framed in matte black, very minimally though, which we recessed into the wall, which is an amazing, if you are renovating, definitely recess your medicine cabinet into the wall. Make sure you get one that does that, because that saves you inches and projection into space, and it just makes the whole space feel airier. I always suggest doing that. And then I tied the overhead light into the matte black scheme. So I just found a basic matte black circular one, and it's so much better than the exhaust scheme we have downstairs because it's not fluorescent. It's not that loud. Of course, I would have loved to put some gorgeous fixture, but it just didn't make sense for the space and sort of the ventilation of it.
Yeah, it's a good thing you were functional. No one wants moisture.
I think the biggest design decision that I made, and where we got into a little bit of trouble, which I know we're going to get into, is that it had to be an alcove tub. I think I said we didn't really change the floor plan because they were utilizing the right layout. Obviously, we talked about the vanity. Believe it or not, this vanity, it was actually smaller than the original vanity.
Wow.
Yeah, so we gained a couple of inches there. We're able to scoot it to the right a little bit, which was nice. Gave us a little more clearance near the shower. And what I wanted to do for the shower was tile the front, because that is something that, even going back to our State of Home Design report, so many designers are talking about the utility of the alcove bath, how it saves so much space, how it can look really high end, especially when you tile the front of the tub. It's a space saver, and it can look really high end when you pay attention to design details.
Speaking of, pains,
Yeah.
I feel like, so I'm perennially a renter, probably will be forever, but I have not had the pleasure yet of working with a contractor, which I feel like you like go like dating, when you're doing a renovation to find the right contractor.
Yeah. I mean,
So what do I need to know about working with them? Because I feel like at this point you probably have gone through so much of a journey with your contractor.
yeah, I feel like it's so important to work with people who, number one, you trust, but also that you like, and that also kind of get your vision. And that will be the big checklist for me. I think you should get multiple quotes just to sort of feel good about where you land, where you are. And that helps you build that trust when you feel like you're getting, like the right job. But sometimes the cheapest quote isn't the best. You have to really kind of understand your house. And I mean, like for us, for example, like we have really little plumbing, and we probably could have skipped a little bit of that, but we decided to put in all new plumbing, like all new pipes, because we're in the walls. Might as well do it now.
Right.
Don't go necessarily with the cheapest quote, because, you might have to spend more money later. And I also think, work your networks. I got a referral from my contractor. His name is Francisco. He's amazing. He works mostly in the city, but also does some Jersey jobs. So he was such a great find. He actually came through my friend Adnan. We might have mentioned here on the podcast before. He's one of our small, cool designers back from 2021. Amazing designer, Adnan Amar Designs. So he was sort of like my little guiding light that could help me at different points throughout the process. And I think everyone should have a designer on speed dial. Better if you're friends with them and they know your style and you really trust their advice. But I think even paying a designer for like a couple hours of a device, or excuse me, of advice,
yeah.
or to just look at your plans or to give you, bounce some ideas off of is totally worth it.
And to help with a mood board, which is something you did too, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I did a mood board on my own, but when I just felt decision fatigue, like what do I need as like the paint color? I could be like, what's the best Benjamin Moore white for my ceiling? And he came back with an answer, which is just amazing. It's such a good shortcut. But I think designers are amazing. The pros really do know, they've been in the trenches before. And like if you can hire a designer for your renovation because you have the budget for it, do it. And if you don't, you can still kind of do what I did and just sort of like get advice here and there. And like plenty of designers offer like hourly rates or just consultate like once, one time or 2 time consultation fees, and it's totally worth it for peace of mind.
Yeah, I feel like those are 5 or 6 good tips, but then you also have some tips based on some of the mistakes that you made, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think even before the mistakes, like you got to have your stuff there. You got to have the mood board ready. You have to know what you want. You have to like figure out a way to sort of translate that for contractors. Most get it. I mean, Francisco got it immediately. He understand the tiling of the tub deck, like all of it, like had done it before. So like this was, nothing he had ever seen before. But depending on where you are, maybe people haven't seen it. So you have to make sure that you guys are on the same page. And I also think get all your stuff ordered. Having the luxury and the designer to order for you if you're doing full service or to look at your list or whatever. Because that's the thing too. You can make mistakes in your sourcing list, which like I did. And like Francisco was really helpful. He looked and told me what kind of like plumbing I needed. So he knew like the types of things that were needed for in the wall, because you're not just getting what's outside the wall. You're getting a lot of times like the hookups and the things, the valves, things that are kind of back of wall. So you have to really like understand all of that. And you kind of need to budget into your plan to order ahead, because there will be delays even if you choose just in stock things. And I don't think it's like great for you to have people on the job when they can't fully install things, because it's like a domino effect, right? Like the tub kind of has to go in first in a bathroom. It's the largest thing.
Right.
So you can't do that until you can't tile until you do that, or you can't place the vanity until you do that.
Originally, you had a timeline of what?
I think that the work itself was supposed to take 10 days, like 10 full business days, but
and the reality was?
Like 2 months.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, I will say, in defense of my craftspeople who were amazing, again, shout out to Francisco.
Wasn't on them.
It wasn't totally on them. It's like when you start opening up walls, that changes things. And then also when you're trying to get something done on a budget, you sometimes just have to wait, right? And we're going to get into the tub.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. Because I feel like we opened
the culprit.
Yeah, it really was. Well, that and not to throw poo-poo on our tech friends, but AI also kind of did you in.
Yeah.
So
it did.
Talk to me about your biggest mistake in this renovation. What would you never do again or do differently as a warning to anyone else who might be doing a little reno this year?
Yes. Let's talk about this. When we first walked the bathroom with our contractor, he was like, oh, it's really strange that like there's a 5-foot tub here when you could put a 6-foot tub, right? Like you really work the full length of the alcove.
Right.
Well, when the rubber skied the first time, it turns out we couldn't do that. Oh no, because the main pipe in the house, I guess, that was running a lot of things to outside of the buildings. Yeah. So moving that, and it was a large pipe, probably over $10,000 just to move that one pipe.
Yeah.
So we were like, yeah, we're not doing that. So now we know why it was a 5-foot tub.
But you had ordered that original tub.
Yes. We had a tub that wasn't going to fit unless we wanted to spend a lot more money moving the pipe and tying too, by the way, right? So once that happened, we had to send back the tub, which that part was easy, and then get another tub. But here's where I went really wrong. So at this point, I'm kind of like, oh my gosh, tubs, like why? I'm like so fatigued on tubs. So I go to ChatGPT and I'm like, what'd you designer spec more, the Kohler Avec or the Kohler Archer? Okay. And it turns out Chat said that the designers like the Avec because I was like a little more contemporary and a little more streamlined, which should have been my warning to like not get that because it was a little bit more of a historical bath. So I was like, whatever, done, good, great. Get me the Avec.
Wow.
That comes and the plumber is like, no, like you can't use this. If you use this tub, it's not going to be flush against the wall and there's probably going to be leakage. And in like 5 years, like we're going to have to come back here, pull this tub out and like fix mold probably.
And your professional probably could have caught that if you had had that discussion.
Right.
Rather than ask ChatGPT.
Right. Exactly. They would have caught it.
Danielle, my friend, it happens to the best of us. I am sure there are many people out there who will write you and say, me too. I've done something really stupid with ChatGPT.
I just think don't trust it. Talk to people when it comes to these kind of decisions because, again, I was too embarrassed to go back for a third tub. So
How much did that cost you, by the way? Do you want to share?
$900 tub.
Oh, $900.
Anyway, it was close to $1,000, and I would rather have it in my pocket. So learn from me and don't trust ChatGPT, at least not with bathtubs.
Okay, well, you talked us through a lot of your top line details about the bathroom, but I feel like I'm staring at the photo and I'm seeing something new every time that I do. So what are some of the design details that people probably would miss upon first glance?
Yeah, well, I think I talked about the wainscoting, but what that does, and that's sort of like well, it's not exactly wainscoting. It's almost like a faux wainscoting that creates a color block look. And I absolutely love it. I think it breaks up. The bathroom might have been a little dark if I had gone with all green. And I did choose to fully tile the walls completely because I thought that that was very like luxe and it reminded me of like a fancy boutique hotel. So I knew that I wanted to do something there that kind of broke it up. And I used that pencil trim, which is really cool because pencil trim is historic. I think it's coming back, talking about trends. And I think, again, ties into the floor tile and then some of those matte black touches. Honestly, one of the biggest compliments that I got from this was from our plumber who looked at all the tile, said that the installation was great. Again, chef's kiss to Francisco and his crew. And the plumber said, hey, I like what you did here. You have taste. Every bathroom we work on either looks like an Apple store or like Disneyland grew up. Yeah.
Clocked it. Well, we talk about small spaces all day. I feel like your bathroom is not super palatial in terms of square footage. So talk to me about storage.
Right. So I think I mentioned briefly before that I absolutely didn't want to compromise on vanity storage and I wanted it to be closed because I think when you don't have closed storage in a bathroom, things get claustrophobic. We obviously kept the layout and kept that linen closet, and the goal in there is probably to add some shelf dividers and make sure that we're optimizing that space too.
Right.
And then the other thing that I have up my sleeve, because like I said, it's still a little bit of a work in progress in there, is we do have that little niche in the back against sort of the back wall where it's hiding the pipe. So I went and got some vintage marble, and the idea is to build some shelves there, but they'll all be hidden behind our shower curtain, which spans the entire wall. And that's a great trick too, which we've seen before, and I couldn't wait to try just because the wonky layout needed to sort of be solved with that little half wall and kind of niche area. The only other thing that I added that kind of came later is just getting things, like I said, off countertops. So I added the cutest little shelf, and then now that's like a little perch for like a box where I keep like toiletries and a little piece of art and like a tissue box, that kind of things. And then I also found a couple cute accessories that are wall mount from the Paris flea market. I have one for soap, and I'm hoping to get another eventually and could add in like a lotion. And then the other thing that we did, and this was another add-on suggestion, instead of doing a niche in the shower, we decided to do something very British, which is sort of like the basket storage. You see that a lot in 20s baths. Again, it's like very historically accurate to the time, although we did it in sort of a brassy gold finish, which maybe isn't exactly period appropriate, but it's perfect. It holds shampoo, conditioner, body wash, that kind of thing. And it's nice and, long and thin. So it doesn't take up a lot of space because, again, it's just right on the shower wall.
Well, speaking of details that are working, I'm not sure if you actually also got your lighting from Wayfair. Tell me about the lighting before and after. What was sort of the process there?
Well, I think I told you, like, the lighting made me look like I didn't even want to put my makeup on in there. It was like, that's what like a bathroom is for, right? Want to get ready in there, but didn't want to use the bathroom the way most people use it because the lighting was so bad and fluorescent, only overhead. So when you're renovating and doing like a full gut, which we really did, you can kind of add in new wiring and you can kind of bring in sort of more opportunities for lighting. So that's what we did. We kept the overhead. And like I said, it's a exhaust light combo, warmer bulbs. Great. So nice to have that. And then we added in a second light above the vanity. So a sconce there, which is from Wayfair. And I think my tip with lighting is that I like to go more mid-century with my lighting in particular. This goes back to that kind of like not living in a museum principle. Like, I think it's a good contrast to all the other 1920s inspired things that are going on in the bath. I don't need to have, the dainty vintage lighting too, which I love and can be beautiful. But I think for me, mid-century is just like easier and cleaner and kind of contemporaries out things a little bit. That's what we did. We just grabbed a Wayfair light there. Oh, and then now I brought in one of my little Pookie lamps. British younger tones in the bath too, right? So I have a little Willie Morris shade on my Fuki lamp, and it's great too for like the trend of like dark showering. You want to turn all the other lights off and keep something small on. It's great for reading in the bath. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's nice to have multiple sources, and I think you want them to be a little bit warmer, but you can always choose the bulb temperature you feel most comfortable in, but I think they should all correspond.
So we famously know that I'm horrible with a budget. Don't believe in them, don't subscribe, don't do it. But you had a budget in mind, and tell us, did you stick to it? And do you have any tips for people who might be looking at a budget for a reno?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I kind of stretched it and made it look sort of more luxury on a budget is by not using stone everywhere. I just had stone accents, right? The other way that I think we really saved money, if I'm being honest, don't do a glass shower door. Don't do a glass enclosure.
Interesting.
A couple reasons, that we chose the curtain. The first is just that, frankly, it's cheaper than doing a door.
It's
right?
cheaper for sure. I feel it's also easier to care for and clean sometimes.
Easier to care for and clean. Like, I've watched people who have beautiful glass doors in their bathrooms, like not what's even shower in them because the spots are everywhere, right? So you need to choose something that like works for you. But then also for me, practically speaking as well, the curtain made so much sense because it added a lot of softness and sound dampening to a bathroom that could have gotten kind of like acoustically loud home tile. It was also camouflaging that weird little niche, which we've talked about. And a couple more tips on really stretching the budget that I would recommend. Subway tile, right? It's a classic for a reason, and it can be inexpensive if you go to a home center or order from Wayfair. There are like very budget-friendly options out there.
Love that
you can find, and it looks beautiful, and it's all about the installation, right? Like anything en masse, like often will look more expensive than it is. So that's a trick. And then we went with a fully tiled bath and told you that was like my boutique fantasy. I've seen it in so many places where I stayed, but you don't have to, right? If you want to stretch a little bit there too, just do a tile wainscot and use paint. Using more paint over tile is always going to save you money.
Is this now your favorite room in the house?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I wish I could like sleep in there. Like, it's not 100% done, but it's so close. And it was worth all of the sort of like time, money, effort.
Well, if anyone wants to steal Danielle's look or get more details about her home renovation, the full breakdown, including product links, before and after photos, all in our show notes below.
And for more of this weekly in your inbox, subscribe to the Design Define Substack. The link's below.
See you next time. Should we do this from your bathroom next time that we film?
But yeah, cocktails are on me. Design Defined was produced by Karis Danish with help from Vixen John. It was edited and filmed by Vixen John. Set designers, Maya Borrero. That's it for Design Defined. I'm Danielle Blundell. See you next time.